Call public hearing to order. The City of Belton will hold a public hearing on the proposed annual budget for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2025 and ending March 31st, 2026. Public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak for or against anything on the budget, come up to the microphone and state your name and address and speak your piece. And we'll also have another public hearing at the next meeting in 2 weeks as well. So hearing or seeing no one, I'm going to call the public hearing closed and call regular meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Thompson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Larkey.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Thompson.
You, yes.
Thompson.
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Can you hear me?
No.
The light's on. Councilmember Pryan.
Here.
Davidson.
Here.
Lawson. Here. Richardson.
Here.
McCallum.
Here.
And Johnson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Personal appearances, 1, Arbor Day 2025 proclamation. Councilmember McCallum and any of the Arbor Day people.
I was wondering how many were going to join me. All right. We have an Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas in 1892, J. Sterling Morton first proposed that a special commemorative day be officially set aside for the planting and acknowledgement of trees. And whereas this holiday, designated as Arbor Day, is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide a habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas on April 12th, 2025, the City of Belton will celebrate Arbor Day and pay special attention to the wonderful treasure that our trees represent and dedicate themselves to the continued health of our state's urban and rural forests. Now, therefore, Mayor K. Larkey, Sr., Mayor of the City of Belton, Missouri, does hereby proclaim April 12th, 2025 to be Arbor Day, and that the month of April in 2025 to be Arbor Month in the City of Belton. We urge all citizens to become more aware of the importance of trees to their well-being, participate in tree planting programs that ensure a green Belton for decades, and plant, nurture, and protect and wisely use Belton's great treasure of trees. In witness whereof, Norman K. Larkey, Sr., Mayor of the City of Belton, Missouri, hereunto sets his hand and has caused the seal of the city to be affixed at Belton, Missouri, on this 11th day of March 2025. And I have up here with the proclamation the Urban Forestry Board, is that the correct council? Sorry, Urban Forestry Council, that helps not only represent us on Arbor Day, but does countless other activities through the city with our parks and making sure that our arboretum is taken care of. So I don't know if anybody has anything they'd like to say.
First, I'd like to invite everybody to the Arbor Day celebration on April 12th at 10 a.m. at Cleveland Lake. We will be planting a heritage tree in honor of Jack Dryden, who donated 69 acres to the park in the city. So if you can make it, we would love to see you out there. And I would like to talk kind of about what the Urban Forestry Council does. The city of Belton spent $123,000 this year for tree care for the city. That's about $4.83 per capita. A lot of that, some of that was public works, some of it was park, but together we all take care of the urban canopy here and try to make it a better place for Belton.
Okay, sorry, were you going to talk? I wasn't, okay, all right. All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thank you, guys. All right, item 2, we're removing item 2. G, unfinished business. 1, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2025-08.
An ordinance amending Chapter 4 and various sections in Chapter 6, 12, 22, and 36 of the Unified Development Code to modify existing regulations and adopt new regulations for accessory structures, uses and projections, landscaping and screening, and conveyance plats to improve the effectiveness of the code.
Present. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Lawson?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Yes.
Richardson?
Aye.
McCallum?
Aye.
Thompson?
Yes.
White?
Aye.
Mayor Larkey?
Yes,
Councilmember Pryan.
Aye.
motion passes. 2, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2025-09.
An ordinance authorizing the City of Belton, Missouri to enter into an amended and restated development and performance agreement with Chewy Incorporated.
Present. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Pryan?
Aye.
Davidson?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
White?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
McCallum?
Aye.
Lawson?
Aye.
Mayor Larkey?
Yes,
Councilmember Richardson?
Aye.
motion carries. 3, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2025-11.
An ordinance authorizing and approving a clinical agreement between the City of Kansas City on behalf of the Kansas City Fire Department EMS Education Program and City of Belton through its fire department to provide protocols and requirements directing the emergency medical technician and paramedic student clinical education experience.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mayor Larkey?
Yes,
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Pryan?
Aye.
White?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
McCallum?
Aye.
Lawson?
Aye.
Thompson?
Yes.
And Davidson?
Yes.
motion carries. H, new business. 1, motion approving resolution 2025-014.
A resolution endorsing the City of Belton's application to the Missouri Main Street Community Empowerment Program and directing staff to provide support as necessary.
Present.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. You're up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before this evening is a resolution endorsing Missouri Main Street's Community Empowerment Service Grant application. Missouri Main Street offers a competitive 2-year, $45,000 grant that provides training, advice, and other tools to the city and partner organizations to help reestablish its membership in the Missouri Main Street program. Missouri Main Street is the state program of the National Main Street America program with over 50 communities in Missouri. in approximately 1,200 communities nationwide. The Main Street program incorporates activities from 4 distinctive areas to build enhanced opportunities for downtown revitalization, including organization, promotion, design, and economic vitality. By focusing on those program areas, we can further our revitalization efforts of Main Street, including building more partnerships and accessing new grant funding opportunities. Additionally, rejoining the Missouri Main Street program is one of the top priorities for downtown in the 2050 Comprehensive Plan, as a number of downtown tourism and economic development goals are linked to Main Street success. Staff recommends approval of the resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I do have some. I've been a part of a couple conversations about this taking shape, and if I'm reading this right, then the city would be responsible for the $14,000 match.
Yes.
Okay. The organization that's coming together to support this, who's on it? You know what I mean? This is a new nonprofit setup to engage in the trainings.
We've talked to several business owners on Main Street who are willing to be part of this organization, and we continue to discuss being part of the organization with other members of the community to come together to work together for this organization.
Okay, I've talked to both Wanda and Patty and Wanda about this. And anybody who has the enthusiasm and the heart to do this for Main Street, I encourage them to do that. As this has kind of taken shape, I've, reached out to Missouri Main Street Connect to say, hey, 2 things. One, do we already have an organization, Downtown Belton Main Street, Inc., which you're the vice president of, correct?
Yes.
You guys are involved with them currently.
No, not with the Main Street organization, no.
Not
that I was aware of. 'Cause I talked to both Gary and Art this last week, and they said we were not part of it.
Okay, I was under the impression you guys paid dues for like the investor level, but not
Through the Missouri, not the national.
Gotcha, okay. But this isn't national, this is Missouri Main Street Connect.
This is Missouri Main Street.
Is it?
Main Street, it's Missouri Main Street. And we were informed that there is no connection now between the existing group and Main Street, Missouri, or Missouri Main Street.
Okay, I got kind of a fuzzy answer back from them on that, just acknowledging. The second thing is, when I went to their website, it says that it's not, like best practices for the city to be in charge of this group. And the way this is written up and structured, the city's footing the bills, staff is being, encouraged to participate. And we don't know who all is gonna actively be on the board yet. Those are my hiccups with it as presented tonight.
Mr. Mayor.
You want to address the?
We want to partner with whoever will partner with us to do what needs to be done to revitalize downtown. We're not asking the city to take charge of this. We're asking for help to get started, and hopefully where we can work together, we will work together. But it's this organization that we're starting that's going to do the work. Hopefully staff can help us when we're trying to set up certain events and things like that, that I think other groups in the city go to for that kind of help. We're not saying this is a city-run organization. This is an organization to partner with whoever wants to partner with us.
And we had to, we are applying for a grant. And this is the starting process in order for us to apply for this grant. And this letter had to be brought before the council so that everyone knew what we were doing.
Signing a letter of support saying, yeah, we've got folks in town that want to be involved and do this training and support Main Street, I love. I've talked to both of you about that. If you've got the heart for it and the energy, let's do it. The city paying the grant piece was new to me on the agenda. And I just, it feels like there's some more things to be fleshed out. However, I'm just one person up here that had questions about it, so.
Could I try to clear a few things, maybe?
Go ahead.
That might
Go
help
ahead.
us clear some of this up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what the city's doing is getting involved at the very front, because there's a grant that the city and any organization who's getting involved with this would be eligible for, which essentially allows them to bring in a consultant. Missouri Main Street fits most of the bill for that if you apply for this grant. There's a match, which is about $14,000. They bring in a consultant, and they help whoever is starting, and there's the organization that's taking shape as we speak, when it comes to what to do when starting this organization, how to go about the organization, how to apply for the grants, how to really engage it. And so what the city's doing is, we don't need the council's approval for the $14,000. We just want the council support for this effort. The $14,000 is within the city manager's purchasing authority, so we have room in the budget. And so this essentially isn't asking for the $14,000. This is us saying we have the money in our budget. We can make this work through economic development. We're asking for the city's support, essentially, formally, for the grassroots effort that's already taken shape to establish this committee.
Councilmember White.
I'm going to reserve the right to come back later.
Councilmember Davidson.
Question. When I looked at their website for the downtown, the downtown Main Street, Belton's listed on there, and they're in good standing, which is confusing because I thought in the paperwork it stated that they hadn't paid their dues. Can you have more than one downtown Main Street committee? If you can't, how are you going to approach that? Would you help work with the existing one that's on Main Street?
As it stands, according to the Missouri Main Street, we are not an affiliate of Missouri Main Street. So if we wanted to apply for the grants, the Missouri Department of Economic Development puts money into the Missouri Main Street program that they essentially task with that organization to disperse money to communities for downtown and for main streets. And as it stands now, if Belton were to apply for those grants, we would not be eligible because we're not a current member in standing of any standing. And it's our understanding that that's been the case since 2020. And so this was just, as far as staff was concerned, the grassroots effort to take this on was to reestablish that connection, which we feel is obviously vital.
But there's lots of steps involved. When I looked, there was like your basic, and then there was 3 other groups. But if they're paid and they're in good standing, I guess that's where I'm getting confused.
It's our understanding that as well that Missouri Main Street sent they don't want to have two groups essentially fighting over the same turf, for lack of a better term, okay? And so it was our understanding that they had sent a letter to the local Main Street, or the former Main Street group, it's the DBMSI, saying that if they wanted to renew and get back to becoming one of those members in good standing, that they had the ability to do that. They gave them a deadline to do so, and that deadline came and went, and that's why this grassroots organization has taken shape.
I am on the Downtown Belton Main Street organization. I did talk to Gary Mallory, who's our president. I also talked to Art Ruiz, who's on our board also. They both backed this thing to join, and they told me that we were not members of this actual Main Street organization. So to me, I look at it as it's a community development, trying to help get more people in the downtown and make it a better downtown, because we need some help on there. So I'm backing it 100%. I've talked to 2 other board members, and they're backing it, so I feel pretty good about it.
Just because I asked the question of Missouri Main Street Connect, can you have 2 orgs? They didn't answer that clearly, but they sent back the letter. It was an email, and they had sent it to beltonmainstreet@gmail.com. So I don't know if Gary Mallory received the letter. It just feels a little rushed, and that there are some questions and things to be fleshed out. Like you said, you don't need council approval to spend that $14,000 to get the match on the grant. However, as far as I know, the only people firmly involved right now are council members.
No, we have
No?
a board. We have a board.
Who's on it?
I don't think that we have to tell you that right now. We just know that they are there. They have signed the letter of intent. They have signed the resolution that's required by Missouri Main Street in order to move forward. And that's what we've done, and what we have to have is a resolution from the council that says that the council approves us being involved in this organization, or that this organization is going to exist to work towards these goals. So I'm not sure, why it's important that you know who is involved.
Well, because now there's $14,000 involved, which wasn't originally explained to me when we had conversations. If the city's footing the bill and 2 council members are on the board, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. However, if it's a 7-person board and you 2 are 2 voices, that's good to know. I say and stand by this, that if you have the enthusiasm and the energy to do this, do it. If we can have 2 orgs in this group, let's do it. At this point, I just feel like there's more information I would like to sign on. And I don't think knowing who's on the board is out of bounds. We've got representatives from DBMSI on the council, and now we'll have representatives from whatever this group is called on the council. My goal, and one of my biggest frustrations with Belton since I've been on the council, is the inability for people to collaborate and work together, and that is not anything to do with you two. That is a deep-seated tradition in Belton, that people protect their resources and have a hard time coming together and agreeing on the best way forward. And this, I'm afraid, will kind of further that or divide resources when we've got DBMSI with, everybody talks about this fairly significant amount of money they have to dedicate towards projects they believe in. We can all advocate for different things. I'll just never shut up about sidewalks, because with the Chapter 353 and the matching grant, something could happen. But instead, we're kind of like splitting hairs a little bit. And that is, again, why I have reservations.
Councilman White.
Is your current board a temporary board until further elections are held?
No, it's the board.
It's the board.
It's the board.
And we tend to ask more people to be involved, but, we had to start somewhere, and we went to all the merchants downtown and we talked to them, and they were all very anxious to sign up, and they were very excited about it. They are very familiar with Belton, or Missouri Main Street, and I can just say that in all the training that I went to in Branson and Tampa, and I asked how you got all these wonderful places in place, and how did you get this restaurant in Evo City? Every single one in Branson and in Tampa said that we worked with our Tampa Main Street group or our Branson Main Street group, and they were all affiliated with the state Main Street group. And I just didn't see that we had that. And that's why it made me very excited to get a group of people together that are willing to work together. And Patty and I have no intentions of staying on here long term. This is something that we would like to just get started and see where it goes.
Go ahead.
All right. And Joe, this is likely a question for you. Where is the money coming from a budget perspective? Is that economic development, or how's that?
Yes.
Economic
There was some
development?
money available, left over from some projects that had come in under budget, and so there's about $29,000 left in this line that we would be utilizing for this.
Okay, so, and there, just hear me out, because what I recall is almost a $0 budget, a very healthy, good budget for economic development. Is this going to change that?
No, I mean, the budget we're discussing for approval tonight is obviously FY '26, which starts in April.
This
The
is
economic
from
development
20
budget for FY '25 is in good shape. We've got money left over that is not going to be expensed, and so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. And then, okay, I guess this would likely be for the 2 council members that are helping propose this. In terms of, reading through the packet, I understand that this is the creation of an organization, and my potential, hang up, if you will, I don't know if that's the right word, is I just want to understand, what is the organization? I didn't see a real definition of what that is, and I just want to understand. So it's a board consisting of a total of how many people? Is the city, because the city's helping with that process, going to have somebody on the board, especially if, council members aren't in it long-term, or we could always, I guess I'm just trying to understand I'd like to understand the definition of that.
It is going to be a not-for-profit corporation. There is a 7-person board. And if the hangup is not knowing who they are, here's the deal. It is Brad and Kara Steele at Broken Hatchet, Gregory Sharp from Random's Coffee, Janice from Marcella's, and Lori Fegan-Spassett from the North Cass Herald. And Gregory. I think I mentioned him, and if I did not, I apologize.
Yeah, I think transparency is always good, and maybe there was my next question was gonna be, when would that be revealed? At some point, I assumed it would.
Well, it would be a public record as soon as the articles of incorporation are filed, as all the directors are listed.
So, okay, so when would we expect that? Although now we have the answer, but.
Soon.
Okay,
They're drafted, they just haven't been signed yet.
okay.
My question is, has all the business owners been approached? And what is the percentage that said yes, and who said, percentage that said no?
We didn't
Was
have
there a-
anybody who said no.
No one said
Well,
no?
one person said no. I take that back. One person said no.
Okay.
This is kind of more of a procedural question for maybe Patrick. I would like that as this takes shape and we vote on this, that it goes with full support, right? So my question is, if we won't have that tonight, would we want to take a beat and postpone it to a future meeting? Or do we want to vote tonight? What would make the most sense?
Well, in order for us to qualify for the grant, we have to have this in motion. I don't know how often, Patty and I have been to a training about this, and I don't know how often they offer this grant, but we're under a bit of a tight deadline, and we're not trying to hide or do anything behind the bushes. We just would like to qualify for this grant because of the 2 years of teaching that they, if we make the grant for the 2 years of training that they would give us.
I guess, council members, the question, full support of the city council, like you're attempting to ensure that the vote is 9-0, or is it the full support of all of the business owners downtown?
I'm just talking from a council perspective.
So the issue with, I guess, mandating or requiring or, however we word, like it has to pass unanimously or something like that, that would be in kind of direct conflict with the charter.
Sorry, no, that's not what I was asking. I just mean if we needed more time.
If any council member thinks that there needs to be more time, a council member has the ability to make a motion to postpone the reading of the resolution to the next regular city council meeting.
Okay, am I the only one that feels that way?
You are the only one who feels that way, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
Bring it, just bring the motion, make the
okay,
motion.
I would like to make the motion to postpone until our next city council meeting.
Next regular?
Next regular,
Okay.
yes,
Just in case.
yes, thank you. Our next regular city council meeting, because I have additional questions.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to postpone to the next regular city council meeting. Motion fails, no second. So we're back to the motion on the floor with resolution 2025-014. Go ahead.
I did talk to Gary Mallory, the president of DBMSI. As he said, with this group, this is more of a development, trying to go get more businesses to help our street, to try to help develop our street. That's not what the DBMSI board is actually for, is going out and getting other businesses, according to Gary and Art. So by them backing this and having economic development push this, that's kind of our goal, is to help get more businesses up here and get the right businesses to help this street grow. And I feel like anytime we have a chance to help this Main Street get a little bit, take a couple steps forward, there's 2 or 3 people that want to make it take 5 steps backwards, and I'm getting tired of it. I want it to move, I want it to get better, and I'm tired of people pushing back on this. We need to make this street better and do what we can to help the people that are up here. These are small businesses. These aren't Target, this isn't Walmart. Help these small businesses. And you guys pushing back on this is telling these people on this street, these small businesses, that you don't care about them. And that's how I feel. I'm for the Main Street. I'm for this board.
Well, I don't want there to be animosity, and I don't feel like that we're pushing back. I think we're just trying to develop a different avenue to approach this thing.
No, I'm
that-
for this board.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but I don't want it to end on an angry note either.
Right.
So I want to look at this in a different perspective. I mean, we're not in competition. We are trying to do something to develop and go after economic development and go after grants that have been left on the table. We're not, this versus them or us versus, my dog's bigger than yours or any of those things. I want it to be a working group that has the best possible ideas for Main Street.
I agree
mean, that's why
100%.
our name is a coalition rather than,
And I have actually had talks with Gary about the 353 and the 80-20 budget, or the 80-20 grant for the sidewalks. I've also talked to Joe about it to try to get a group plan of how we're gonna do it, because I'd like to have, when we do these festivals up here, like Carrie Nation Days, Fall Festival, where we got the pods that we can put down in there to supply electric for when we have people up here. There's no electric for any of these people up here. If they have to, they gotta run cords halfway down the block to a pole with a outlet that doesn't work half the time. So I have actually had talks with it. I've had talked to Gary about doing the 80-20 grant with the city and trying to repair these sidewalks.
I guess oh, sorry.
Hold on, you go.
I feel for both sides. You want to get the money and there's a deadline for that, and you want more information, but this is the first reading, so we do have 2 more weeks.
No, this is a resolution.
Dang it. Glad I asked my question.
And I just want to join in with Wanda. We're not saying that DBMSI doesn't have value and shouldn't, that's not the point here. The point is, for us, is there's an opportunity to move forward. And that's all we want to do. And if we all can work together, that's terrific, and we should. That's all I want to do, is just make sure that Belton's Main Street is vibrant and people want to come, and there's places to eat and places to shop and things to do. That's all I'm interested in.
I think my 2 cents on that front is that you've heard me talk about festivals probably way too much, and I'm not trying to be a broken record, but I've seen the economic growth that those bring to a city, and that's why I think they're great and we should encourage them, and I'm hopeful that, I know we're talking about economic growth in a small business sense, but I'm hopeful that I wish we had 10 organizations that wanted to be involved, and I guess my thought is the more the better.
Well, I just feel like I want to restate, asking to postpone to get more information was an effort so that we could send this with the full support of 9 of us. And I reject the notion that I don't support businesses on Main Street or that I mistake them for Targets or Walmarts when I have questions about this. So just didn't want to let that go unanswered, because if you were listening to me, it was because I want to give this full support and I have questions.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No?
Motion carries. Item 2, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2025-12.
An ordinance adopting the proposed fiscal year 2026 city budget as revised and appropriating funds from the revenues of the city.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You're up.
Good evening. I just want to go through a real quick recap of some presentations that Joe and I have given, I think 3 times now. And then I do have a couple of slides on here that we'll talk a little bit about FY25 year over year to FY26. We'll look at the expense difference and then the salary and benefit difference and see how that kind of correlates. So just as a recap, the budget assumptions for FY26 include a 2.5% COLA and a 2.5% merit, so 5% total for all employees, 12 to 15% increase in health insurance premiums, 5% estimated growth in sales tax revenues, 5% in water costs from KCMO, and actually we got that back to today, or actually it was last week, I think it was Friday that I got my letter. It's a little over 5%, but I always cushion that, so I think that we'll be okay there. 5% estimated increase from Little Blue, 15% estimated increase in liability insurance, and then loggers increases are 1.6% for general, 1.9 for fire, and 1.7 for PD. Any questions on those assumptions? Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Me? Or he was faster, but okay. I've also noticed that we have traditionally estimated those 5% specifically for water and Little Blue sewer. And it seems like those come in fairly accurate.
They do.
Just about every time on
They
those.
do.
That, why is that so consistently around that 5% that they're bringing us with an upcharge? Do we have, I mean, I know we don't have another option, but I'm just,
No, we definitely don't have another option. No. We are
do we
dependent
know
on.
why they are consistently always around that 5%?
I do not know why they are, but because it did come in a little bit higher this time, I will be reaching out to find out why it did come in a little bit higher. Joe and I had that discussion
I'm going
today.
to say it's because we give our employees 5% raise, they're giving their employees 5% raise. So it deals with operations just like we operate as a city. They operate as an entity as well, Kansas City and then Little Blue Valley Sewer District. So I'm going to say.
However, we are
There's
not
there's some
passing
common
on
sense there, but I wouldn't.
our increase.
I understand what you're saying. There's some common sense there, but I wouldn't mind the ask, I guess. is
Oh,
my point.
absolutely. Joe and I talked about that today, so I will be reaching out.
And just reiterate what you said. I think they were talking over you, Casey.
Oh, yes. And just to reiterate, we are not passing on the increase that we're receiving from Kansas City.
You said the raise, you said for all employees, that includes part-time?
Part-time do not get the merit. Some part-time do get the COLA. We have parks, they do things a little bit differently than we do. Golf, it just depends, actually. The part-time's getting a bigger raise this year because of the minimum wage increase going to $13.75. So normally, they wouldn't get that type of a raise, but this year they are, and then next year, if that stands, it'll be $15 an hour. So those are some significant costs that we are continuing to look at and see the effects that it's going to have on us, so. But normally, no, they wouldn't get that, the merit. Any other questions? Okay.
Anything else?
Oh, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And just, again, to recap some notable items for this year's budget, we are adding a new IT position. We've got a deputy police chief coming in. I think, Scott, when are you holding interviews for that in the next couple of weeks? Okay, sounds good. We do have some new rental inspection revenue budgeted at $50,000. New debt service payment, you guys approved the general obligation bond for that for street and stormwater projects. Golf's gonna make their last debt service payment in FY '26. We've got a proposed $6 million in water improvements, including $1 million that will hopefully go to AMI as soon as Greg gets all that wrapped up for us. You guys talked last time about wanting $15,000 for the homeless committee, so we did change that in the budget. And then general fund will be making a transfer to park for the Carry Nation event downtown for $25,000. Yes, ma'am.
The revenue for the rental inspection, is that just because we're charging the people who have a business license and rent property an inspection fee?
I'll let Matt take that one.
Okay.
That includes the $20 registration fee per rental unit in the city. And that $20 covers any inspections that they are conducted for that unit over the year.
Okay, I guess my question is, if we, at one time, we talked about hiring another inspector just for the rental inspection. Have we, is that, I mean, I don't know how we can have I don't know how we're making money on that, I guess is what I'm asking you.
So
because
we just hired a new building inspector that
Okay.
also can handle rental inspections as well. So we actually have pretty much all of our inspectors, including neighborhood improvement and building inspectors, trained on conducting the rental inspection program. So we have added additional building inspector to help with both building and rental.
Okay, and as this goes along, we'll find out who hasn't gotten a business license and who, I mean, that's a reoccurring thing, correct?
Yeah, we've revamped, you might recall, we revamped the program, so the rentals inspections they don't require a business license. It's just a rental registration fee
Okay.
that they have to pay.
Yeah.
And so that was a change from before.
Okay.
And we did not hire, Matt mentioned we'd hire a new inspector, but we didn't add any staff. We reallocated a staff position
Okay.
to essentially take on some of these added duties.
Okay.
And so we're going to attempt to make these inspections with existing staff without having to add another staff member or pay another entity to come in and do these inspections.
Okay, and if you don't mind, do you mind giving me a percentage of how many landlords, for the lack of a better word, we have now? I mean, it's,
I believe we're about 160 registrations,
Okay.
accounting for about 2,000 units.
okay,
So there's about, I think we're short about 300 or 400 that were registered when they were business license. We know one of those has a significant number of those units. So we're currently working through the list and cross-comparing, and we're going through that notification process for those remainder registrants who have not
okay,
registered.
all right, thank you.
Go ahead.
My understanding is that there's a bill pending in the Missouri legislature that would eliminate the city's ability to have business licenses. Has that been taken into consideration in planning the budget? I don't know what will happen with that, but that's a concern.
It is a concern. We haven't accounted for it in this budget, there is a bill that would essentially preempt cities from requiring rentals to be registered.
I guess we'll deal with that when we get there.
Anybody else?
I have 2 more slides.
Go ahead.
I do want to point out a mistake that I made in the great big 97-page budget document that was posted online. I know all of you read that. So in my Excel document, I have legislative salaries. I also have a car allowance. I combined those in one line item for salary. So instead of 90,000, it's 60,000. I don't know if anybody caught that, but I actually caught that today going over it again. So I wanted to let you know that that's been changed. So this slide, I just want you guys to see year-over-year revenue expenses from 25 to 26. And then the next slide, I actually have the expenses, the difference in the 2 years, and then as that correlates to salary and benefits. So I just want you guys to kind of look at this real quick while I read through some things, and then we'll go on to the next slide. So some of the differences in 25 to 26, we did talk about this in prior budget sessions. We've moved contractual legislative for finance to audit work. Contractual legislative, we've moved all of our broker fees for general fund, so we pay broker fees to Hayes Company, and they do all of our Brown and Brown, actually. They do all of our brokerage for our health, dental, and vision. So for general fund, I've moved all of it out of the departments and put it all into legislative. It's just a lot easier to pay that way, and for HR to write out their payment requests for that. So we've gone ahead and moved everything to legislative there. So you'll see a bigger increase there. And then I don't know if you've noticed those line items, but they have been significantly lowered. That's just in general fund. All of the other funds will continue to pay as they always have. In administration, we've moved a customer service personnel to the Economic Development Fund. Again, we have new IT staff coming. Human resources, our recruiter used to be paid out of PD. It is now paid out of HR, so you'll see a bigger increase there. Finance, we have talked about this a few times. 2 utility clerks used to be budgeted out of water and wastewater. I've moved everybody to finance. So you'll see a significant increase in salary and benefits in finance because those people are no longer in the water and wastewater fund. And then inspections, their increase isn't very significant. The contractual is down. We used to have a contractor that our abatement fees were a little bit higher than they probably should have been, so Matt went out and found a new contractor, so those fees are significantly lower than they used to be, so thank you for that, Matt. And then water and wastewater, again, we moved personnel out of those two funds, and they are now in general fund finance department, so that's why those changes are a little bit more significant than what you're used to seeing year over year. Yes.
Can you remind me, is it 15% for our general fund that we need to keep the balance at? Or what is the minimum
That is the charter, yes.
for the chart? Yeah,
Yep.
specifically for the chart.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So, yes, ma'am?
I have a general question. This
Yeah.
isn't specific to this year's budget, but since you mentioned moving two, like, billing clerks from water, wastewater into finance, does that affect their overhead allocation and how so?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So the overhead allocation, so for the finance part of it, it transfers for the finance expenses. So since those finance expenses went up, yes, that transfer is more. So it's basically a net zero for water and wastewater because they don't have those expenses anymore for those people, but the overhead allocation has increased because it's now in finance.
Okay.
And this is for Council Member Powell. When they work for different departments, they'll be charged billable hours for those departments. Is that correct?
We haven't started doing that yet. That is something that we've been talking about for a couple of years. I believe it was in the budget for FY25. We didn't seek that.
Okay.
I'm going to let Joe speak to that a little bit more if he wants
And
to.
I know that that was a Councilman Powell's, thing. One of
Yeah,
his-
you'll recall, before I was hired, and you may recall, before I was hired in '22, there was a contract that was entered into with Baker Tilly to do a study. I asked for them to pause on it until we got to a point in our finance department where we could adequately and accurately, account for their time in a status quo environment and not in a trying to catch up audits and whatnot environment. And so we've purposely held that off until we're 100% flush, and that's coming very soon. So I've already had preliminary discussions with Baker Tilly about reengaging that. Yep.
So this last slide here just kind of reiterates what I went through as far as the changes year over year. You'll see the year over year expenses in green, year over year salary and benefits in orange, and then just a description. Again, just went over that a couple minutes ago. Those expenses that are contributing to the year over year. One thing I didn't talk about in wastewater, you'll see it's negative. So in FY25, because we were transitioning from one software to the next, I budgeted pretty heavily in case we had to keep both of them for a significant period of time. Luckily, we didn't have to do that, so that's why you see that budget, the decrease there year over year. Any further questions about the FY26 budget?
Anybody?
Mr. Mayor, I know we have two readings on this, that tonight's the first one, the next one will be in 2 weeks. And I, again, offer the invitation to any council members who are wanting more individualized look at the books, with me and the finance staff, or even with Casey directly. We'd be willing to go through some of that and have those conversations if anybody has any questions.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the first reading of Bill 2025-13.
An ordinance amending sections 42-36, rates inside city, 42-39, rates for water consumed outside city, 42-296, sewer system user rates of the Unified Development Code of the City of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You're up.
Okay. So we've talked about this a couple of times, gave a little presentation on the rates going down. Actually, what we are doing is lowering the debt service. In your council action report, we outlined this, and we actually gave, a utility presentation with the exact same information on it. The net savings, just real quick, residential inside city limits will be $3.38 a month. That is for a minimum bill. Commercial, non-residential inside city limits is $613. Outside city limits residential is $586. And then outside commercial is $613. And the reason that you see a bigger savings in outside is they don't have trash service. And then the net difference for inside residential, we actually raised trash rates, so that's why the net is a little bit lower than the outside residential and commercial. Any questions?
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm turning this over to Mayor Pro Tem James Prime.
Item 4, motion. Is he gone? Motion approving the first reading of bill number 2025-14.
An ordinance authorizing a salary adjustment for the mayor of the city of Belton effective April 15, 2025.
Present.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Good evening, council. Yeah, the bill before you this evening, 2025-14, is essentially would allow for a CPI increase for the mayor's salary to be realized from the last time it was adjusted. You'll notice that that would take the salary up. Right now, it's currently $16,800 a year, and that would make it essentially $21,720 a year to be effective after the new term starts, which would be April 15th. So we did discuss this during our work session last week, so I'd be glad to stand for any more questions.
Any questions?
I know you mentioned some cities that you compared the salaries. I went out and I did a little bit of research and compared what Belton was paying. I looked at Liberty. Their mayor's salary was $4,800 for the year. Raytown's $14,400. Grandview is $19,200. Raymore, I believe, was $12,000. They're all about the same size as we are. And then I noticed the increase was 28%, which seems a lot. I understand you're trying to make up 8 years, but it just seems like an awful lot of money.
Sure.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Al.
I'll just say I had a somewhat comical conversation with a couple of residents that thought the mayor got paid a lot more than the mayor does. So, you know, I guess there was a little bit of support in that regard. I guess I'll go back to, look, my personal opinion is not just my personal opinion, actually, from, I guess, individuals I've talked with, I think to do a good, effective job, what I would want as a resident, but also I think in general, is we want a mayor that's going to do this full-time, not someone part-timer like myself, you could say, where I am relying on another source of income to you know, make ends meet. So that's, I guess, why I would suggest we support it, just from that standpoint, my 2 cents.
Go ahead.
You know the show Whose Line Is It Anyway, where everything's made up and the points don't matter? That's kind of how I feel about mayoral salaries around the region. We're going to find high water marks, low water marks. The reason I don't support this is I just don't understand why this is a priority right now. Kind of to read the room, I guess. I don't think it's a good look for any of us to be getting paid more when a lot of people are feeling a lot of economic pain. I'll never have a resident come and say, I think our elected officials should be paid more. And so, you know, we kind of all knew what we were getting into when we signed up for this. So I just don't find that this aligns with my priorities or the priorities of Ward 3.
Go ahead.
I actually did talk to quite a few people in our ward, and everybody thought, as Alex said, that they thought that the mayor made more. And everybody I've talked to have actually supported the raise as the minimal. I would never support the city council raise, but Mayor, I see the extra stuff you got to put into doing it, and everybody that I've talked to in our ward has actually been for this, so.
I agree with you. I just think it's time. I'm looking at the future. We don't have the current mayor forever, I'm sure. And so, I'm looking for the next person to run this. I want them to not think about salary or money, but to think about running the city. But if we're gonna pay them part-time, they're gonna put in a part-time effort, and I don't want that to be there. So that's why I'm for this as well. Any other questions?
Well, I'm struggling on both sides, because I could see I watch the mayor and I know how much time he puts in, and he puts in more. If you calculated how much time he puts in on the salary, it would be very little per hour. But at the same time, I struggle with, in this time, economic, that we do the raise. So I'm really struggling, and I did not bring it up at my Ward 4 meeting last week. So I'm also struggling with, I didn't get any feedback, what some of the other ones have. So this goes 2 readings, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to reserve, I haven't decided yet, but I will by the time my name's called. But if my Ward 4 raises heck, then I will change my vote during the second, or change it depending on what I vote next. So I'm just reserving the right to do that.
Any other questions or comments?
I still feel it's our civic duty. And I want to say, Casey, when you did the budget, you talked, I know you're going to say he's not part-time or full-time. Part-time didn't get a merit raise or cost of living.
Well, this year, they got a significant raise because it went to $13.75, and that's just because of minimum wage. But normally, the part-time don't, but yeah, there is a different category for elected officials. I'm just.
And I look back at my own job, in IT. I have never heard somebody going back 8 years on the cost of living. It just doesn't happen. Most of the time you might, oh gosh, I can relate. I think the biggest raise or increase I ever got was 15 to 16%. I was promoted up a whole level. It just seems, it's just not a good time. We're asking the voters to approve the fire sales tax. Timing's not good. That's my opinion. Well, we're asking the voters to approve a tax for April 4th.
Well, I just didn't hear what you said.
Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes. We bring the mayor back in.
All right. Item 5, motion approving resolution 2025-15.
A resolution amending the personnel policy to add a paid family leave benefit.
Present.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. You're up, sir.
Mr. Mayor and Council, yes, this
essentially would be, this is a resolution to, and technically, when it comes to the personnel policy, the way we have it set up, we could change the personnel policy, bring it back to you at once and have it approved, every so often. But I formally wanted to bring this motion or this resolution to the council because it's such a big additional benefit and change that I thought it would behoove us to be transparent in this process. What we're asking for you all to consider, and this was discussed heavily during work session, is the addition of some paid personnel or paid personal leave, family leave as a benefit for folks. We would try to get as close to the FMLA qualifying as is allowed. What I'm hoping you guys will give us is at least the approval to move forward and allow staff to go ahead and fully develop the guidelines for how that would be implemented and stated. The nuts and bolts would be 6 weeks of paid leave, maternity, paternity, and the way we have it that we're asking is maternity, paternity, and then family leave if there's an incident that is qualifying for, FMLA. If you look at the resolution, there's a new resolution that was put on each of your guys' locations on the dais. Because we wanted to be a little more clarifying in that resolution that it may be amended that it'd be parental or family leave, not just any qualifying event, and that it would be amended as addressed by the personnel policy in the future if needed. So I'd be glad to stand for any questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, you answered some of them, some of the questions I had there, specifically because I would like to understand a little more how it's going to work, but obviously that hasn't been fully fleshed out. So I understand that I'm not trying to necessarily get into those weeds too far, but
Get in as far as you want, as you're interested in, as you think the public needs to know, yeah.
Well, don't worry, I was going to. So that being said, I will say, in regards to a newborn, a birth here, it sounds like you can use the time, the leave, anytime between birth and the first birthday. Is that an accurate understanding?
No, that's not. I believe it's in the first 12 weeks is how that's, 12 weeks is what you're given for FMLA if you take the completion,
Okay.
the total amount of time. So you could use that 6 weeks anytime within that 12 weeks, essentially.
Okay, well, that's going to very quickly change my second piece, which is that, so I know some companies specifically allow use of this intermittently, which is potentially fine, but the problem becomes then you all of a sudden have someone working a week, gone a week, working a week, gone a week. If you can only use it within a 12-week period, I was going to suggest, a minimum of 2 weeks per leave was going to be my suggestion on that front, but you're kind of going to hit that wall pretty quickly if you can only use it within the first 12 weeks as opposed to the first 12 months.
We're trying to balance the benefit, which we feel is a needed benefit potentially. We think the staff would be very welcoming of this benefit and the need that's presented that allows us to give this benefit with the operation of the city and, being able to plan for that operation. And so that's why we want to eventually create some guidelines as to where that works.
Exactly why my suggestion was going to be if intermittently is allowed to be used, that you make it at a minimum of a 2-week use per intermittent use, because it will hopefully not interrupt operations as much. I've just seen and heard where the 1 week minimum can have more interruptions. That was the big thing. Otherwise, I think this is great. I think my understanding and talking to you, Joe, has been that we're going to be the first one in the metro, on the Missouri side anyways, to offer something like this. So hopefully that means we're going to have some good talent as a result. And I think it's a needed benefit. So
we're one of the first. Yeah, I believe Kansas City, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, has a benefit, and I think Riverside has a benefit. But most, especially on this side of on the Southland, we definitely would be setting the trail.
Okay.
Just to confirm, Kansas City, Missouri does offer it, but they offer 12 weeks paid, correct?
They do.
Okay. Do we have any benefits currently that an employee has to work here for 12 months to qualify for? Would this be the only one with that kind of long of a runway?
That's a good question. I don't believe there are any other benefits that require that kind of a, yeah.
FMLA requires that you're in your position for 12 months before you can take the 12 weeks.
You have to work a minimum of 50 hours in that 12-month period, yeah.
Yeah, that's the part I took issue with ours, is just saying, things happen. And so if someone started with the city and was crushing it for 3 months, and then they found out they were having a baby at 9, that complicates things. So we could remove that. We don't have to match with FMLA, correct?
We can,
For our leave
no,
plan,
yeah,
we don't
I mean,
have
our
to.
leave plan can, I mean, as long as we follow FMLA laws, we can
Go above and beyond.
We can go above and
Just can't go
beyond. I don't think that's an issue.
I'm, like we talked about last time, I'm a fan of this. I think if we can make it accessible to employees and we can support them through these transitions, then we become an even more desirable employer in the area. And looking back at certain benefits that we no longer offer employees, there's things like the 457 match that went away. I don't know how long ago that went away, but it went away. And the longevity bonus around the holidays, that used to be $50 per year that you work for the city. I mean, there are nice things that used to be baked in that have been eliminated. So if the trend is to bake these things back in, then let's do it,
I think one, and I don't know if this is a serious concern or not, and I don't know if that we would see this or not. I think one of the potential contentions to that, to eliminating the 12-month requirement is, you're going to be pregnant, or even you are pregnant, you apply for a job knowing you're going to get this leave, you get the paid leave, and then you decide, well, I don't want to work there anymore. I got the job just so I could get some paid leave. That's
Sure.
just playing devil's advocate.
No, I get it. I took a job several months pregnant with no plan other than I needed a job and I was having a baby.
Sure.
And they gave me 4 weeks paid, which I really
awesome.
appreciated. But, I think we want better for our employees and their families.
That's fair.
And this is an opportunity for us up here to say, yeah, that aligns with my values and our priorities. So it's not every day you get to advocate for something like this, and knowing it would have benefited you, it's like, I'll just put it out there. I think this is a net positive.
Agreed.
And never having had benefits and having children in the dark ages, is it possible that you could do it like a 90-day? None of these things kick in until 90 days. I know that with my husband, he had jobs that, he would have had health insurance, but he had to be there 90 days. So that's just something to throw out there. Because I'm like Allison, I said, we need to make it so people want to work for Belton, and those are all very positive things.
There is a health insurance lead-in, obviously, when you're
is.
hired, yes. And so that is easily a logical place if you wanted to start there.
I mean, could you even make it within the first year if they leave, if we give it to them within the first year, but if they leave within that first year, that we could recoup that when they left?
We could put it in there, but the chances of us being able to recoup that in reality, at least in totality, are probably pretty slim. Not that I'm saying we should, we're not going to be going after folks for.
And what is the lead time for, if you don't mind, before you get insurance once you're hired here? Is it 90 days? Is it?
It's the first month after 60 days. It's the beginning of the first month after 60
Okay.
days.
I appreciate the work going into this. I think it's important. It tells the city employees that we believe in family here, and to me, that's important. So my only complaint is I wish we would have done this a lot sooner.
Fair.
Question is, do we need to move, because it's a resolution, does it need an amendment, or can we just pass it, knowing that the idea is I think the consensus of council is to reduce the amount, unless Alex has
It
a
might be
question.
the consensus. I would offer a differing opinion, dissent on that, which is that I would rather we work with an exception on that rule and stick more closely to the FMLA expectations there for some of the reasons you mentioned, Joe, but also I think from a simplicity standpoint, I think I'm unfamiliar with companies offering that benefit prior to. I'm not saying they don't exist, as I'm confident they do. I think it's just more of the norm to be at the FMLA guidelines because they kick in then at the same time. But if I'm outconsensed,
When
then
you-
that's
when
totally
you-
fine.
When you mentioned,
I'm in favor.
when you mentioned based on exceptions, what do you mean by that?
Well,
How do you, who picks and how do you
well,
pick?
that's tough, and that would be a decision our city manager would have to go through. But I would say, maybe offering vacation that they might not have sooner, right? So, hey, or finding other ways to work with the employees so they can have that time without necessarily, going against our policy per se.
That seems messy.
Fair?
And there is a
I
leave
get where, I
bank,
get where you're going with it, but it seems messy to me.
and there is a leave bank that, for exceptions or
The sick leave pool.
leave pool.
We do have a sick
Yeah.
leave pool, yes.
So that would help make it less messy. And then it would be, I agree, that would potentially be messy. However, I would also say the amount of people that are going to fall into that category is also probably small.
Very slim, probably.
So, I just want to clarify. So, you're asking this council to say, yep, go develop the policies. That's,
With these basic parameters that we've already
and so
outlined,
we
yeah.
won't see this again.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're bringing the personnel policy to you periodically for
Yeah, I
continual
know,
updates.
but I'm
and
talking about
so
as a particular.
as a standalone item, no.
No. So, all we're doing right now is either providing you suggestions on how to write this up, but once we approve this, then it's out of our hands.
Unless when we come back and bring the personnel policy back to you for formal approval, you decide to single this out and say, we want to change this or remove this.
I mean, I believe as council, we could always make that request if that was something we wanted to request.
I
But
just trying to clarify my head.
And we can also ask him to bring it back when he's done with it before he puts it in the thing. If you want to go down that road. I don't think we need to go down that road,
No.
but,
Generally, it behooves us as staff to follow your lead as council.
yeah.
To essentially answer Councilmember Johnson and Councilmember White's kind of questions/thoughts regarding this, the purpose of this resolution is to allow staff the clarity to know that the city council is okay with providing this sort of benefit. It is not defining out and particularizing how the policy and how the benefit will exactly be operating within the city. It is instead just letting staff know that, yes, if you do this, we're not going to all of a sudden, be asking for it to be brought back so that we can pull it out and disregard it.
I'll take the blame. I'm a self-proclaimed HR nerd, and I live in a house with a wife that is also an HR nerd. It's something that we talk about, so I'm sorry, I got into those weeds.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 6, a motion approving resolution 2025-016.
A resolution approving a contract for services with Tramar Contracting Incorporated for the marking and striping project in the not-to-exceed amount of $99,448.60.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. You're up. I knew we couldn't make a meeting without you.
So, excuse me, so I'm coming up at the rear here with a pretty standard contract that we do every year to do our striping. Excuse me, our budget for striping this year is $100,000. We went ahead and bid our striping. The bids came out anywhere from $107,000 to amazingly $548,000. I have no idea what they were thinking. We went and negotiated back with the contractor to get the price under $100,000, and that's exactly what we did. And so now our contract is within budget, and we're looking forward to getting approval and moving forward quickly.
Any questions? Go ahead.
So that was quite the extensive list that you had there on striping. How long is that expected to take as a total project?
To actually stripe all this,
Yeah,
about a week or less.
okay. And then, so you did some negotiating. I think if I understood, that meant you kind of maybe reduced or removed some areas
Yeah, so we removed some areas. It was about half of what we normally stripe, and so we had to remove some more streets off of it and go forward with it.
Were they in Ward 1?
I did not negotiate, so I have no idea.
All right.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, one motion non-debatable to approve the recommendation noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Present.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. J, communication from city council. Councilmember Johnson.
Although the snow wasn't as bad as it was expected, again, appreciate Public Works for getting the streets cleared quickly and making sure everything was taken care of. Very much appreciated.
I don't have anything personally. I do want to remind everybody that Parks has a lot of events going on right now, and some of them are even getting sold out. Quite literally, they're running out of room for some of them. So if you're interested in them, please make sure you go to their website or call the front desk at High Blue to sign up. And other than that, I will move on.
The only thing I got is Saturday, St. Patrick's Day Parade right here on Main Street. Everybody show up, have a lot of fun.
I'll circle back to the earlier part of the agenda where we had the Belton Youth Commission, but they had already came and went. Just for anybody paying attention to the agenda at home that feels like that part got canceled. It didn't. It happened before the meeting. We welcomed 3 students from Belton High and 2 teachers and 1 mom. And they were talking to us about the desire to start a Belton Youth Commission mirrored on the Kansas City Youth Commission, which was inspired by their participation in American Public Square. It's all very exciting, and basically all they needed to hear from us is that, yes, we think this is a good idea, and as individuals on the council, we'd be happy to spend time with these students, listen to their concerns, and tell them about what this kind of work is like. Everybody was pretty excited about it, and just providing that as an update of what's going to come in the future. We're looking forward to it.
Councilmember Richardson stole my thunder. I am on the board for the parade Saturday, so we hope to see a lot of people out there. And please come and help catch candy.
I was going to mention the parade too this Saturday, and they also gave me a flyer for different levels to donate, and the donations this year will benefit Golfing for a Good Choice, a Belton Police Golf Tournament, so.
I too want to talk about the kids that came today. I'm very excited about it. I've got grandkids in that same age group, and they look at me like I'm crazy when I talk to them about civic duty. So it's exciting that there are teachers and kids that want to be involved, and it's just exciting to me. And I'll be more than happy to spend time with them, or fix lunch for them, or whatever we need to do. But I like it.
We had our Ward 4 meeting on Thursday the 6th. I want to make a correction to that because I was talking to them at the Ward 4 meeting about a roughly $4 reduction in the utility bill, and it's a little bit in between there, $3.30-some. So I want to make that plain that I made that correction. Also, the homeless committee did not meet this month, but the plans is to move a little bit into a more long-term direction and a plan while we keep our pulse on the emergency services. And so the plan is to begin to look at creating a survey to survey a lot of individuals who are homeless to kind of see what the different benefits, services that we may need to figure as part of this plan. Some of this is going to happen at Free Hot Soup, so because they have connections to a lot of the individuals, and so it's going to be better that they do the survey than some stranger. And hope to see you all Saturday.
All right, I don't have much I would like to add to the kids. I mean, I think that'll
Very
be a good,
impressive kids.
good ideal. I think I even remember when we were in high school that we did something like that way back when. I don't ever know what happened to that, but, yeah, I guess it worked, yeah. And, thank God spring's here. So that's all I got.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to remind council and the public that because of Election Day being April 8th, and that our council meetings for the month of April will be on the 15th and the 29th. And I also wanted to kind of get on your all's radar right now, we have a tentative joint meeting scheduled with Parks for April 29th, and that would start at 5:30 before the regularly scheduled council meeting. And then we would plan 30 to 45 minutes of a joint meeting and then roll that into the regularly scheduled council meeting on April 29th. So
What time, Joe?
5:30, the early start to account for the joint meeting.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. No items for review and discussion, so I'd entertain a motion to enter executive session to discuss matters pertaining to legal actions according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.1 pertaining to the leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.2 pertaining to negotiated contracts according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.12, and if the record be closed and the meeting adjourned from there.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Richardson?
Aye.
Thompson?
Yes.
Pryan?
Aye.
Davidson?
Yes.
Johnson?
Aye.
White?
Aye.
Lawson?
Aye.
McCallum?
Aye.
And Mayor Larkey.
Yes.